What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. You guys, welcome back to Gotta Love Them Movies, a place to talk about the stuff that you love. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Braun. I'm here all the time, and you guys, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Today is one of those days where, like, news just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. People are like, take a look at this article and take a look at this article, and, like, there's so much stuff. So, some of the stuff that we were going to talk about today is getting pushed to tomorrow. If I spoke to you yesterday about your topics being pushed to today, don't worry, those are intact. We're still going to talk about that stuff. But like I said, today's a jam-packed show. Today's a jam-packed show, and helping me talk about all things jam-packed is a very good friend of mine. You can expect to see her more often. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Natalie Cass.
Hey, hi, movie lovers.
Natalie, what's going on? How you been?
I've been good. I'm excited. I'm ready to get jammed.
So I understand, like, jammed. Yes. Do you see what I did? See what I did with that?
Yeah.
We're talking about Space Jam, you guys. So fun announcement to make. I understand that today's Thursday. Today's a special day, but Natalie, you are now going to become our Wednesday regular.
Weirdo. Woo!
Wednesday Women Crush Weirdo. That's a self-proclaimed title.
Yes. Copyright.
Natalie, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on the show every Wednesday. I understand today's Thursday. Today's a wonky day, but like every Wednesday coming up, I just enjoy our conversations together, and I'm just looking forward to hanging out with you every Wednesday.
I know. We should, like, this is way better and more efficient at socializing than, like, calling people.
Right?
Or even seeing them face to face. I don't know why more people just don't only socialize like this on a podcast.
Well, I mean, like, I know. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. The logistics sometimes get a little tricky. It's just easier to call them, like, hey, let's FaceTime 12 people at the same time, but I dig it.
Hey, no, I only want to do family events from here on out via a movie-themed podcast.
Well, it's like any other, like, social gathering. Like, you need a central purpose. Like, what are you there to do?
Yeah.
And then, hey, let's go to the beach. Great. We're going to the beach. We're swimming, and you can invite, like, 20 people. It's great in a non-COVID world.
Yeah.
Everything comes with the tagline, in a non-COVID world. And speaking of all things happening in a non-COVID world, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already done so, that's a terrible segue, but I'm using it anyway. If you haven't already done so, head over to youtube.com, type in Gotta Love Them Movies. You're going to see a little red rectangle in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Go ahead and click on that rectangle on that subscribe button. With the more subscribers we get, the more watch content the channel gets, and with the more watch content the channel gets, we get to make the show our full-time job. And ladies and gentlemen, it has previously been announced by myself that the live portion of the show will move from Facebook to YouTube once we hit 1,000 subscribers. COVID and my recent job furlough has accelerated our plans. So now the live portion of the show will be moving from Facebook to YouTube on March 17th on St. Patrick's Day. So just be aware and keep an eye out for that. As well, if anybody has any movie news that you want to send me an email at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com. If you have any questions about the stuff that you hear, if you read something, you've heard a rumor, and you're like, no, I need clarity on this, or if you just have a general comment, you want to talk about your favorite stuff, send me an email at gottalovethemmovies@gmail.com, and as long as it's family friendly, we'll make your question or comment a main topic here on the show. All right, you guys, enough about that. Let's move on and take some movie news.
What?
All right, and let's just go ahead and kick it off. Like we were kind of teasing at the beginning, some new images have dropped about Space Jam 2, and specifically Bugs Bunny. Let's jump into this particular article from Comic Book. Is this Comic Book Resource?
Yep.
There it is, comic book resource. I wasn't sure if it was comicbook.com or comic book resource. They're all very similar. So Entertainment Weekly just kind of did a spread on Space Jam 2 with LeBron James. Of course, with the cover, it looks very standard. It looks great, awesome. They're Looney Tunes. They're in their Toon Squad uniforms. But as we scroll down a little bit, we get our first official look at Bugs Bunny himself. Oh, let's frame this up a little bit better. There we go. This looks awesome. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. The detail to the animation just looks beautiful. Like the attention to detail, obviously Bugs is very expressive here. Yes, he's wearing his uniform, the Toon Squad uniform, but based on this photo, and like, who knows? Like, this movie could be a heaping pile of garbage. Who knows what this movie's actually going to turn out to be? But based on this photograph, it looks like they've kind of done their due diligence to like update the look of these characters from 2D to 3D. And of course, in the original Space Jam movie, like, it was like 3D animation, but they looked like for what the technology that existed in 1996. Those characters look great. And now to bring them into the 21st century, in the year 2021, again, they've updated their look ever so slightly to make it more photorealistic, but still keep it like a traditional look to how the characters are supposed to look. The animation could be terrible, but the character design for now looks fantastic. Natalie, you're the one. Oh, happy back to your seat. Perfect timing. You're the one that brought this to my attention. You brought it onto my radar. I think the character design looks excellent. We have yet to see them in motion. The animation combined with this imagery may not work. I mean, it probably will. It may not. Who knows? And we'll read the description for the film in a minute. But what's your knee-jerk reaction to the way Bugs looks in this photo?
Man, he looks so plushy. I just want to squeeze him and love him and hold him and kiss him and whatever.
What was that line from Despicable
really
Me? He's so squishy, I'm gonna die. Something like that.
Well, there's that, and there's my girl. What was her name? Elmira from Animaniacs, right?
Elvira.
Wasn't she? Was okay.
It?
So she was. I think it was Elmira because of copyright. I think Elvira was a totally
you're probably
different
right.
thing. Don't quote me on that. Research me, check me, write it down in the comments and tell me how dumb I am. But nicely. But yeah, I really love this look. I'm super excited about it. From my filmmaking background, most people know like anything with fur can either go really well or really badly, as you know, certain recent examples like cats would be. I also feel like if you saw, I'm sure most people watching this channel, if you saw Wonder Woman 84, Cheetah's look, I think changed from the original footage debut at DC Fandom. I think they made her look much darker. And I think that was to kind of hide some of the furry, just CGI that didn't really work necessarily, or they would have needed more time.
I will make the distinction between, like, Bugs Bunny is an animated character with animated fur who's supposed to look animated, whereas Cheetah is supposed to look photorealistic, and it just didn't.
Yes, that's a good point. I will say I kind of lament, I wonder if they're going to do this the whole way through, which this looks really good. I'm not going to say like the detail, I'm not going to hate on it. The detail versus the animated quality, like the animated characteristics that make animation what it is, that make you fall in love with characters. This is a good, succinct match. I just wonder if they're going to do this the entire time, like the whole movie, or maybe we're seeing a glimpse of Bugs Bunny in the real world. I think that would be interesting because I personally really like the character design of the original Space Jam. Like, for basically your Roger Rabbit type style, where you're having these animated characters on top of film. I think it looks really great. however they choose to do it, they can do this a lot faster and easier than they did. And when did Space Jam come out?
The original was
1994,
96,
6?
yeah.
96. Man, I remember when Space Jam came out and I got that on VHS and the little, the puffy VHS case.
Yeah, I do remember
I
that,
was
of
so
course.
excited. I made myself a pact. I was like, I'm gonna watch this every day just to prove how much I love this movie.
I made that same exact pact, but with the
Yeah.
movie Jurassic Park. I did.
Yeah, I did a couple that Space Jam and Independence Day. I feel like I stuck with Independence Day longer, but
Oh, man. Well, you guys, question for you is, what do you think of the look of the style? I get it. It's just a photograph from Entertainment Weekly, but it kind of, to me, I'm kind of jazzed about it. It makes me think of the Peanuts movie and how they took those 2D characters and put them into a 3D setting. I thought that it worked really well, and I think this is going to work really well. They've had enough time to work on this movie, so I don't know. I'm kind of jazzed about it. I'm kind of excited for it, but who knows? It could end up being terrible. What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know. All right, guys, our next bit of movie news today is actually a user submitted question. That sounds weird. It's a fan question. It's a fan question. So let's jump into our mailbag real quick. This question comes to us from Matthew Wiles, who lives in the Leeds in the UK. Matthew Wiles, a longtime watcher of the show, and Matthew asks this question. Hey, Mike, my luxurious haired friend. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for picking up on that. So I have been very patient with Warner Brothers and was so happy to hear that we plebs in the UK would be able to watch the Snyder Cut. But here I am, 2 weeks to go, and no service is advertising that they will do it, and no Google search that I do finds anything. What gives, bro? Yeah, so this is, we're starting to get down to crunch time a little bit here with this. Matthew brings up an excellent point. Let's jump into this article real quick. So a little backstory, you guys, So actually, let me jump into this article first. So a few weeks ago, Warner Media puts out a statement because, everybody's been wondering, how, okay, great. It's Zack Snyder's Justice League will be made available in the United States on HBO Max. Cool. But what about all the other countries around the world that don't have HBO Max? When are they going to be able to see it? And on what platform are they going to be able to watch it? Well, a few weeks ago, on February 18th, Warner Media put out this statement where they said, yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League will be made available worldwide in all markets on Thursday, March 18th. The official statement says Zack Snyder's Justice League will be made available worldwide on all markets on day and date as the U.S. on Thursday, March 18th, with the exceptions of China, France, and Japan. The feature film will be available in each market via one of the following distribution options: PVOD, PEST, EST, SVOD. Essentially, with all these shortened. What's the term? Shortened abbreviation.
The legalese.
The what?
The abbreviations.
Thank you.
You're doing an abbreviation of all the abbreviations.
Abbreviation of all the abbreviations. Essentially, it's like all the different various formats in which you'd be able to watch the movie, whether it's download, rentable download, purchase, streaming on a different service, whatever. That's what all those different things mean. Or it's a local TV provider. Additional details for each specific market will be shared in the upcoming weeks. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? That was 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, and now we're just kind of like, but Justice League is coming out very, very soon. What platforms? You said it's going to be available in the next few weeks. Now it's the next few weeks later. So I took it upon myself yesterday to tweet at HBO Max help. And this was the response that I got. Replying directly to me, I gotta love the movies. They said, "Hi there, Zack Snyder's Justice League will be available on demand, digital download, linear, or streaming, depending on territory. Please stay tuned for specific details to be announced soon. We're excited for you to see it. This was yesterday. You can see the date on there and the time, East Coast time. This was yesterday, you guys. So in some ways, it's kind of cool where you're like, oh, great, they've addressed it. But they still have yet to put out any official information about this. As to, like, we know in the United States when we're going to get it. But when will our friends around the world be able to watch Justice League? We still don't have any answers. Natalie, this is incredibly frustrating. I mean, it's not frustrating for us in the United States because we can make plans around it. We can have our big bowl of popcorn waiting weeks in advance saying, I'm going to sit down on the couch at this time on this date and make our plans. But our friends around the world, I mean, they say it's going to be made available, but we don't know what platform yet. They're like, how are they going to watch it? This seems a little unprofessional, just a little bit. What are your thoughts here?
Well, there's kind of some big backstory here that I think might be at play. Yes, one, totally sympathize with your favorite thing not being available in your market. I felt like, the UK has gotten first dibs on a lot of really cool content that us in the United States had to wait for. But in this particular sense, I know that Warner Brothers in general, Warner Media is having trouble negotiating with distributors through this because now they're the distribution method, but we all know how companies like Lionsgate and other people in the industry have their issues with that. So I think that that's more likely what's the issue is they're waiting for details in the contract of how they're going to distribute these exactly through what channels, like your viewer pointed out, that there's certain networks that have always been Warner Brothers mainstays, and now it's kind of like, ooh, how do we do this? How do we either get more money, which is probably
It's what everybody wants.
What it is. Yeah.
So do you think this is more of an issue of kind of like what happened a few months ago when Warner Brothers announced, hey, every movie that we have coming out in 2021, it's going to come out on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. Do you think this is more a case of Warner Brothers putting their foot in their mouth and then just hoping for everything to work itself out?
Oh, definitely. I think that being the third streaming service of success, HBO Max launched in 2020, right? It was right in 2020. And I think the order last year was something like Disney Plus was the top subscription service, and then Netflix, and then HBO Max, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I think that they needed to announce something for 2021 that addressed, like, this is what you're hungry for. So our streaming service is going to be the place to be to see all these brand new movies, to see, we'll throw money at the Snyder Cut. Like, we'll give you exactly what you want. But actual business and distribution, like what they're doing is actually making a lot of waves for the future. I think that it's going to impact not only the movie industry, but all streaming services, the decisions that are being made right now, the precedent that's being set by HBO Max. So I'm interested to see what they ultimately come out with, and what the news is going to be about the decision once we in the public, we laymen, find out the details in the contract.
I agree. It's going to be really interesting to kind of see how all of this shakes out, especially in the next few weeks when you're like, you're promising. I'm reminded of the quote from Top Gun right now. Your ego's writing checks your body can't cash. And I kind of feel like that's the slogan. Is that appropriate?
Top word, yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I do think that they're going to address this. I think it's going to be a super quick decision, a really quick turnaround. It's a little alarming, if I was maybe a lesser known studio, or if I had a lesser known project that, 2 weeks out, there's no solid advertising about where people could find this. But I feel like we're talking about such a big brand with such a niche project. Like, literally only the people that have been wanting to see this are going to watch this project.
It's true.
Like the demand is all
Yeah, it's
there.
true. Yeah, like to any other viewer, they're gonna say, "Why am I gonna watch Justice? I saw it 3 years ago in theaters. I already now
Yeah.
you want me to watch a 4-hour version? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, guys, big question for you is how I get that it's ridiculously frustrating for everyone involved. It's not as frustrating for us in the United States because, I'm not like gloating. I'm just saying like we will be able to see it, but it's frustrating because in some ways we're not going to be able to talk about it. We're not going to be able to share these experiences with our other friends around the world. I hope we are. I'm holding out hope. But what are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know. All right, guys. We have one more kind of emailed topic, or like a viewer comment, a viewer question, if you will. And this comes from the Super Reviewer. The Super Reviewer is watching one of my former videos about Gremlins. Hey, Gremlins is happening, but when is it coming out? Here, I'll just go ahead and read his comment. The Super Reviewer says, guys, go and check out the new Mountain Dew ad with Gremlins. Yes, it's real. That's a sure shot that the studio is really considering putting the film out sooner. So hoping for Gremlins 3 right now, please. And of course, if you haven't had an opportunity, go check out the Super Reviewer on YouTube. He's got some interesting videos about DC fandom. When DC fandom came out, I did a whole bunch of videos on that topic. So go check out the Super Reviewer. But what the Super Reviewer is saying here is, if you're not already familiar, a few weeks ago, I feel like this was a Super Bowl, or like this was a Mountain Dew ad that was made for the Super Bowl, but then they ended up scrapping it and they went with the John Cena Super Bowl thing, Mountain Dew commercial. But what it was is they got their original actor. Hold on, let me get back to this page real quick. Their original actor. Sorry, so many pages open. Zach Galligan. The original actor from the first two Gremlins films. He's sitting on the couch, sipping on a Mountain Dew, and of course Gizmo is sitting right next to him. He's like, "Oh, I want Mountain Dew." So he's like, "Okay, but be careful." So he hands him the Mountain Dew. Of course, Gizmo splashes it all over himself because he's Gizmo. And then of course, all the Gremlins like start popping off of his body and everything. And Zach Galligan's just like, "Oh no, here we go again," right? And it was kind of a fun, like, oh, hey. But as the Super Reviewer brings up, is that Mountain Dew commercial indicative of, hey, now we have some traction on the third Gremlins film? We know that Chris Columbus has the script written. He wrote the original film, directed by Joe Dante. On the previous video that I did, I said that it was Chris Columbus that directed the video, and the whole internet lost their minds. They're like, "You don't know what you're talking about." Sorry, apologies, I made a mistake. I'm learning as we go, right? Joe Dante directed it. It's heavily rumored that he's going to come back to direct the third film. Nothing has been greenlit. That's the thing. Nothing has been greenlit. As this particular article from Den of Geeks suggests, this was kind of a fun commercial to kind of get Gremlins back up into the social consciousness. But also, if the animated HBO Max animated show, Gremlins show, Secrets of the Mogwai, if that actually has some decent success to it, I think we could expect to see Warner Bros. Now, there's some rights deals as well to work out, but we could hopefully see some traction on Gremlins 3. The last point that I want to bring up here is over on Screen Rant. They kind of did a breakdown of what's going on here. What is going on with the Gremlins 3 movie and why it's taking so long? They point out it's most likely that Gremlins 3 has yet to be greenlit due to its difficulty that it will face appealing to a modern audience. In the 1980s, we were used to kind of more creature features, but in 2020, audiences are more used to the paranormal zombie slasher kind of thing. If we're talking about horror, Joe Dante also wants to make this a more graphic kind of version. There's also questions about the puppetry. There's also questions about the animated HBO series itself. If that's going to work, our audience is going to be receptive to a third Gremlins movie. Natalie, there's so much to unpack here. There's so many different moving parts. Like, what's going on? Do you think we're going to see a third Gremlins movie greenlit anytime soon? Does the Mountain Dew commercial have any kind of push towards that? What do you think?
Well, I do think in both cases it's a testing the waters type scenario. The Mountain Dew commercial is friggin' adorable. It does kind of like hit the tinge of, oh yes, that's what I want. Sometimes there are cases where the commercial kind of gives you that thing that you want, and then you're like, oh, that's probably, you remember the ET
Oh
Returns
yes. Oh
commercial last
yes.
year. I mean, it's sweet. But also there's lots of good reasons why ET should have never had a sequel, and it didn't, even though one was already written, it was scripted, and being handed to Steven Spielberg, it just didn't work out. So I think in the case here with Gremlins 3, it is a bit of a nostalgia gap for a lot of people. There's a bit of an age gap there, and I think it's a property that's just sat with a lot of dust
Yeah.
on it for a long time. Like there hasn't been much in the way in the sake of, just bringing it back to the forefront. There hasn't been, a series like what HBO Max is trying to produce. I think it's a good way forward. And yeah, obviously that's probably what they're waiting on. I do think it's interesting because I really hope if they do this, if they go through with Gremlins 3, that it doesn't turn into like a CGI mess. I know that they talked about insisting on keeping the puppetry a solid part of the movie making process as opposed to using CGI for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that's certain. I just would not have any interest with CGI Gremlins film.
No, I don't think anybody does. I think, as in the article from Den of Geek, one of the things that Zach Galligan kind of brought up was that this Mountain Dew commercial was kind of a perfect litmus test to show that, A, puppetry has really improved in the past 30, 40 years. Look at what the Muppet Show was like back in the 70s, and look at what the Muppet Show is now, or like how they do the Muppets now. Like, puppetry has really improved, especially when you get into the mechanics of everything. And also, to your point with CGI, well, again, in the article, he points out that if there's like a great take that you would love to use, but there's like the boom mic is in the shot, or maybe not the boom mic, but like there's a cable like hanging, or like you can see some of the,
Yeah.
like you can digitally omit those things and keep the performance of the puppet itself. And I think that's kind of where, Dark Crystal, when Dark Crystal, the show came out on Netflix, it wowed audiences. Like the Jim Henson Company knocked it out of the park. It was unfortunate that it wasn't renewed for a second season, but it was beautiful, and the puppetry was masterful, and that's how you do it. But I mean, like in the day and age of CGI, I feel like a lot of audiences want to see more CGI, or that's what we're accustomed to. So kind of going back to that former, maybe that's why the Muppets aren't working right now. Maybe that's why Dark Crystal didn't get renewed for a second season, is that audiences just don't respond to puppetry the same way that we used to.
Well, so I will counter this. I think the Dark Crystal kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with the argument that Gremlins, the franchise, has sat and waited in the dark for a little bit too
Right.
long. I feel like, we'll never know actual ratings about Netflix shows because they don't release that information unless it's something that they want the company to look really, really good, then they'll release that information. But as far as like how successful the Dark Crystal actually was, I wonder if it just didn't hit. I wonder if it didn't hit enough of the key demographics that they're looking for,
Yeah.
because it is a franchise that, like, same decade, as the Gremlins. So I think that that's something that, Warner's obviously looking at, and they would pay attention to very closely if they decide to actually move forward with the cost of doing a whole series.
That's a good point. That's a fair point. But the question is for you guys, what do you think of Gremlins 3? Do you think it's imminent? Do you think the Mountain Dew commercial is more indicative of that there is some traction here? Or do you think Warner Brothers and HBO Max is just kind of like hanging tight for a moment just to kind of test the waters, as Natalie pointed out? What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know. All right, guys, moving on to our next bit of news. It's not movie news, but it is fandom news. We got word the other day that San Diego Comic-Con, for a second year in a row, is being kind of canceled, more delayed than it is canceled. Here in this article from Variety, they go on to say that there will be a virtual portion. Instead of it being 4 days, they're going to limit it down to 3 days. They're having budgetary constraints. Having to cancel Comic-Con, and keep in mind, it's a non-profit organization. So it's not like they're sitting on mounds of cash. That's fine. We'll cancel it this year. And we'll cancel it next year. We'll be fine. They're not that fine, you guys. So they are planning a virtual 3-day event in July around the dates that Comic-Con normally would be held. But then they're also planning on doing an in-person event in November. The November thing is still tentative. I mean, yes, they've confirmed it, but it's still, TBD a little bit. Hey, hold on your horses for a second. Natalie, I have I've kind of reached out to some of our friends, and I also put a blast out on a Facebook page, on a Comic-Con Facebook page, and I got lambasted hard for it, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're hating on Comic-Con." I'm like, "No, I want to hear your thoughts." Like, when you're not around fandom for a while.
We're very sensitive about this situation, okay? It's very sensitive.
Man, I love fandom, but I forgot how toxic fandom can be, and how people are like, "Grr." Anyway, there was a lot of people that didn't want to send me a video, but I've put together a short list of some of our friends. They did send me in some videos to kind of let us know their thoughts and their sadnesses when it comes to Comic-Con. So first up, here's tomorrow's guest, Dr. Ashley Lawrence.
My heart hurts. Comic-Con canceled, but we'll pay any money for November.
How do I feel about Comic-Con being canceled? It's fine. This is fine. We don't get to do things anymore. That's just the world we live in. It's fine. We're fine. We're all fine.
The thing I'm going to miss about Comic-Con this year are the people, all the people that I meet in line, and I make new friends each year. And then also the people that I meet in the small creative panels. Those are my favorite to go to. The big ones are always exciting, but the small ones is where the good new ideas are shared. I miss you, Comic-Con.
Hi, I'm Tara, and my first San Diego Comic-Con was 12 years ago. It was a bit of a lark. I was living in Southern California at the time, and I'd heard about it and just thought, hey, it's in my backyard, let's go check out this thing. Pretty convinced it was a one and done kind of thing. I'd check it off the list and move on. But I will never forget sitting in the Ballroom 20 line, waiting for the Firefly Anniversary panel and looking around at everybody who was waiting with me and just having that warm fuzzy of knowing that I was with my people. And ever since then, I knew that if I could be at Comic-Con, I would be at Comic-Con. So that's what makes me the most sad about it not happening again this year, is not getting a chance to see my friends that I only get to see at Comic-Con, or to meet any of the amazing new people that I always meet. But I'm also an event planner by profession, and in a normal year, my company exhibits at about 50 conferences. So I have some great empathy for the folks at the Comic-Con organization and all the stress that they've had to endure to kind of navigate this situation and make the decision. I am really grateful that they made it this early so that we don't have to bite our fingernails for the next few months. But I'm also really looking forward to when I can celebrate my 10-year live Comic-Con anniversary. Hopefully 2022.
All right, Natalie, those were our friends. Some in our Con Air cosplay group that we cosplay together with, and some just some of our other con friends. Tara brings up a really interesting point. Like as kind of a festival producer herself, like an event planner. You need, like, of course, like you need to cancel Comic-Con. Like, it's in the world that we live in right now. Comic-Con, let's not kid ourselves, would be the super spreader of all super spreader events. Period.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. And I used to work down in the San Diego Convention Center area. I worked there in one of the hotels as a contractor for like three years, I think. And being there during Comic-Con, it was such an exciting event. It, like, the energy of that week was just like the staff at all the hotels, like everyone's just excited. They're busy, but excited. But the other thing though is I don't think most people realize just how much planning goes into events like that. It's weeks and months of endless planning, and I only saw like one little bit of it. So yeah, I think that the idea of doing Comic-Con in July would have given us a watered down Comic-Con, or one that was severely restricted. And I know we were talking about this earlier, like how does Comic-Con even rebound from that? How do you take the 135,000 or so whatever badges that you sold in 2019 in anticipation of 2020, and how do you, like, okay, only 30% of you can go? That's a death match I do not want to be in.
Oh man. Well, I mean, you and I were both attendees at Comic-Con when there was do you remember the whole Hall H kerfuffle? There was a whole thing where, like, one of the security guards let in 200 of his friends, or like he somehow illegally let 200 people in, and then there just weren't room for people who had been standing in line who actually got the legit wristband to say no, I stood in line. It was a whole thing. It just that was 2019, right?
Yeah, and I also kind of remember that because the director of PR at Comic-Con International, David Glanzer, or it might have been Eddie Abraham, who's the director of events. One of them went out to the crowd and, kind of reassured the mob, if you will, that, hey, this is a mistake. We're going to make sure that this never happens again. I'm so sorry, you guys. But the good news is all of you get free 5-day passes to Comic-Con 2020. And we're like,
oh, man.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Yeah, what...
What if they come back? They're still outside at Hall H. Like, those 200 people are like, you promised us.
Well, the same. I'm not that I'm in a similar situation, but like in terms of something carrying over to the next year, 2020 was supposed to be my last year as a professional, and then for this year, 2021, I would have had to reapply to get my professional status with Comic-Con, which professional status just essentially means you get a guaranteed badge. Everything else is a lottery. You have no idea if you're going to con or not. It's a huge lottery that happens within the span of, 30 minutes, 45 minutes?
Oh, yeah. Less than. The heartbreak sets in around 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, so my professional status will presumably carry over into 2022. I don't know how the November thing is going to change. But also, Natalie, I want to get into... what do we think virtual con this year is going to be like? Because last year was fine. It was okay. They slapped together a few things. But if DC Fandom and Marvel, or like Disney's Investor Day meeting was any kind of indication as to what kind of a virtual event that we could have. I mean, I remember last year, San Diego Comic-Con, they waited until the last possible minute before they canceled. And then they put on this virtual event that was, it felt last minute slapped together with enough time to prepare. What, this is March, early March. They've got enough time to prepare like a really great event for July, a really great event. Do you think that they're actually going to follow through on something like what DC Fandom turned out to be, or what the Disney Investors Day meeting turned out to be? And do you think that is going to be an indication as to what November might be?
So I think that's a good point too. You did mention that Comic-Con is a nonprofit, so it's really hard to compare what they are capable of financially to, you know, the likes of Disney and Warner. But a lot of it does have to do with time. A lot of it does have to do with planning. I kind of did like some of the events last year that were virtual. Like, you know, for the first time I could actually like sit comfortably and listen to someone about, you know, that was definitely one of the comments about, you know, like those special little notes about the process of filmmaking
Right.
or comic writing or storytelling. Like those are really special things that I think they translated
Well, and
well
you're also
to
not like limited to time, because like when you're at Comic-Con,
exactly.
you only get to see one panel in this time slot, and you have to choose: am I going to be in Hall H? Am I going to be in Ballroom 20? Am I going to be in like one of the upstairs other things? And
Yeah. And then by the time I get there, is the line like 100 people out the door, and there's no, so that's happened so many times. But I wonder if moving forward, like let's look at Comic-Con 2021 or even this virtual, or not 2022. 2021 is done. Sorry, it's still sinking in. So look at Comic-Con 2022 or whatever this somewhat modified in-person event in November is going to be. I think they would be wise to do it partially virtually. Like, I think that
mm,
they should still have a live event. And then for the millions of people that don't get to go to Comic-Con, you have those virtual presentations that are marketed as like Comic-Con at home. And I think that that is something that could stick around. I think it would be extremely beneficial. And also, I think it would provide a gateway to so many people that have been like, oh, I can never go to Comic-Con. And, you know, and then me, I've been 10 times and I feel like, oh, I'm so
well,
privileged.
yeah, because
But like,
that was always one of the things that was of uh not concern, but like just that people wanted, like, because it is, Comic-Con is so popular that it is a lottery system. You have to be lucky enough to have your name drawn out of a hat, out of what, if one hat has like 10,000 names in it, you happen to be the one that gets pulled out, right?
mhm.
Of course, I'm just making those numbers up. Who knows? I can't remember what the odds actually are, but um, there's that. But also, after Virtual Con last year, it brought up those great points of like, we can, for an extra fee. Okay, Grant, you didn't have your name selected out of the hat, but you can watch these virtual panels on like a, because you know there's ways to do like non-recording, so you don't record your screen, or like you can't have other people record your screen, or like there's ways to go about doing it, but have a legitimate pay $30 instead of paying like what,
Yeah, or
$4,000 for tickets. Pay $30 to see
yeah,
like the live event.
yeah, or you know, if it is, if there's a virtual portion, if I was Comic-Con and I was a fundraiser, what I'd be doing is, you know, packaging the whole virtual thing to put it on for free and have it sponsored by Warner
Oh
Brothers
yeah,
or sponsored
Mountain
by
Dew.
whatever game company, you know, and that's really how events like this are made. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to kind of package something up as like the virtual experience, and it can be on YouTube and it's free to everyone and it's brought to you by this sponsor. So I think that's definitely an interesting way to go. I'm really interested about what this November in-person event is going to be. I know it's going to be a lot smaller.
Yeah, we
and
have
I wonder,
not a lot of information about it.
no. And I wonder if they'll do it at the museum. Because, Comic-Con Museum is, some of you might be familiar with, if you're following the Comic-Con organization, is they've been putting a lot of stock over the last 2 or 3 years into a Comic-Con museum in San Diego, which, 2019, I think, was the first year they really utilized that space, I believe,
Yeah, that's
as
where they had the big Batman installation.
exactly, as a convention exclusive experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, me personally being a Comic-Con attendee, I'm excited to see how they utilize that in the future. I'm excited to see the inside of the building because it's not fully open yet. I think it's supposed to be finished later this year, I think. And I didn't get to fly through Gotham with Batman like the rest of you.
That was awesome. I will say, that space is kind of small for a convention, though.
I think it's going to be smaller. I think it's going to be limited to however many people.
You mean like a few hundred as opposed to a few thousand?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's conservative. I don't want to get everyone's hopes up and then quash them immediately. It might be something that's limited in that capacity, or maybe they do something in part of the convention center that's smaller. I can't imagine they would have the resources to do something big twice.
Right.
So, and also with the uncertainty of 2021, we don't know with COVID restrictions where that's going to go in November. So I imagine that they're going to probably aim on the safer side and plan for a worst case scenario.
I think that's a smart way to go. Question for you guys is, what do you think 2021 Virtual Con is going to be like this year? What do you think the November Con is going to turn out to be? Do you think it's going to be on the smaller side? Do you think it's going to be intermediate? How do you think it's going to work? What is the selection process? How is Comic-Con International going to determine who gets to go and who doesn't? Is it going to be those 200?
Trial by combat. I definitely think trial by combat is the way to
Another
go.
Dark Crystal reference. I love it. I love it. Yeah, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, we have one last bit of movie news to cover, and that is this. At DC Fandom last year, we got pretty excited about all the big projects that DC was going to be putting out. Like, they announced, we got to see exclusive clips of the upcoming The Batman movie, which looks to be kind of along the lines of The Long Halloween, loosely, if you're familiar with the Long Halloween storyline. We got to see exclusive looks at Wonder Woman 84. We got all kinds of news. And one of the biggest news bombs that everyone has been so excited for, and we've been talking about forever, is Black Adam. And then it was on their slate, and then it wasn't, and then we got a new release date, and then it kind of vanished into thin air, and everyone's just been wondering, when is Black Adam happening? Well, you guys, now we have an answer. One of the main producers on the film has confirmed they will be filming this April. Let's jump down to the article here in MovieWeb. The producer of the movie, Hiram Garcia, recently confirmed to comicbook.com that Black Adam will begin filming next month. We're getting started soon. Actually, we begin filming in April. We'll be in Georgia, home away from home. We're excited, man. We have everything ramped up. We're so fired up for this. Obviously, you know how passionate we are about this project. This is very special to us. And not only Black Adam, but the Justice Society of America. And all these characters, we're introducing to the world and what we want to do with it. Look, we're supposed to have been filming. We were supposed to film last year. COVID, delayed everyone. It kind of got in the way, but we're happy we're able to pause, regroup, and now we're going to get going by April. Excuse me. And by April, we'll be shooting and on track to bring this thing home. Yes. Yes.
It was pure the best.
That was my audition. That was my audition.
Yeah, that was
If anyone
it.
from DC, Warner Brothers is listening, I got you. Give me
You
your
got the voice of.
give me your copy. I got you. Yeah, but I mean, like, this is just one of those things that, you know, Natalie, we've been teased, like the carrot has been dangled for so long. Dwayne the Rock Johnson has been attached to this project for 5 years, I think.
No, I think it's longer. I think they've been working on this project in one way or another for 10 years.
Wow.
Or according to The Rock's Instagram video when he was talking about it. And I'm, for one, just to see passion projects unfold and, you know, the level of quality with them.
I mean, like, as you say, this has been in development for quite some time, and to actually see it get some traction, I mean, like, it's every time a new announcement comes out, I feel like every time, this is the curse of this movie. Every time we hear something in the direction that is going to make this happen, we get delayed. And then we get another, like, Aldous Hodge. For the longest time, I've been saying, I want Aldous Hodge to replace Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. That's not going to happen for two reasons. One, Kevin Feige said they're not going to recast. I actually think they will. But it's not going to be Aldous Hodge because now he's going to be playing Hawkman in the Justice League movies or the DCEU or whatever universe you want to call that. We know, let me go back into the article for a second, because Hiram Garcia has a few more things to say specifically about Dwayne The Rock Johnson playing this character. He says the guy's a walking superhero, right? And if they're this is my voice acting happening. The guy's a walking superhero, right? And if there was ever anyone born to play a character, it's him. We've been developing Black Adam. Who knows how many? I feel that it's been close to a decade at this point. We've been talking about this, and on it. I feel the way that this is written, it's like my brain can't comprehend.
It's your acting brain. Use your acting brain.
We've been talking about this and on it, and you'll see him in that, and you're like, that's him. That's him. That's why we've been waiting. That's why we've been working so hard to make this happen. This guy is Black Adam, and he's going to change the DC universe, buddy. He's going to change that thing. So encouraging words from Hiram Garcia.
That was a really long quote for a pull quote, by the way.
It was very meandering.
That's not your fault. It was just like it went in a lot of different directions.
Well, because I feel like he speaks the same way that I speak, where you start a sentence and then your brain says, oh, I have something else to say. And so you start going off in this other direction. And then you realize you have like 3 or 4 different sentence fragments happening. And then you try to loop it all together and make sense of everything of what you're talking about.
Yeah, usually those aren't pulled out for a pull quote. Thank God. But that's the way a movie web. But I want your take on this is do you want to stick with darkness of Black Adam, especially because I feel like in the last month or so I've heard all this news about, you know, like if they're going to do a crossover with Shazam and things like that. I really loved the lightheartedness of Shazam. I love that it stuck to a theme, and I'm afraid almost that they might make Black Adam. Talked about Black Adam many times.
So as lighthearted and fun and bright of a superhero film as Shazam is, let's not forget there were some very dark moments. Like when he is in like the Shazam cave and you have the 7 deadly sins there and they're tempting both Shazam, but they were also tempting who's the villain of the film?
Andy Garcia's character.
That wasn't Andy Garcia, that was Mark Strong.
Oh, damn it.
Mark Strong's character, yeah.
Darn.
They do kind of have a similar look though.
Yeah, well, that in the board rooms,
Man.
which was incredibly violent. Like I wanted my 4-year-old niece to watch Shazam, but then I was like, oh, it's time to go get a pudding pop. Let's go. Let's take
I
a break.
think that is going to be the type of darkness that they're going to lean into. That is, in a lot of ways, the same kind of darkness of how WandaVision.
Yeah,
there are some
that makes sense.
really dark stuff. There's some really dark stuff that WandaVision leans into. So I think it's that kind of darkness that's still playful and fun and interesting, but it stays true to the dark nature of who Black Adam is. And also, like, they have, in recent years, DC has changed Black Adam from being like a pure villain to an anti-hero. Like, he's kind of like Peacemaker in the regard of, I want the best for my people, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. He's like a Daenerys Targaryen. I'm here to liberate and free the slaves and free the people, but if you cross me, I will get my dragon to eat you, and set you aflame.
Yeah, I mean, we ever talk in kind of a more dramatic villain role? I don't think I've ever seen that, and I'm excited to see how they kind of take that.
I mean, Jungle Cruise is yet to come out,
and same director too, right? Same director. It's Joan Colette Sarah.
Oh, it's the same director?
I think so. Man, if I'm wrong,
I have to look this up.
Let me know in the comments. Just write down.
Hold on. You waffle for a second. I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah. With I'm just kind of excited to see how Black Adam passion projects, because for me the most successful passion project that I've seen is freaking Iron Man. How much effort and risk went into something like that, and then in the end, that's really truly indicative of this character. And every time you hear The Rock talk about his Instagram when he's out there pumping iron, but also answering questions about Black Adam and the story behind it, like, I'm always impressed with just how much passion there is and his willingness to tell a good story. So I'm stoked for it.
I am happy to announce that you are correct.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you pronounce his name? Joan Colette Sarah. Joan Colette Sarah. Director of both Jungle Cruise and I was making a complete joke. You're talking about like how dark of a character Dwayne The Rock Johnson is going to play. Pit that against the dark character of Jungle Cruise. It's not going to be dark. Anyway, but
I don't.
I'm excited for this traction on Black Adam. I'm excited that, one of the head producers of the film has come out and confirmed we are going to start filming in April. We've been wanting this thing for so long. I love the casting of it. I love that they're going to bring in the Justice Society of America. I think this is going to be a really interesting film and something that could infuse a lot of... This could be the new tentpole for the DCEU. This could be like... Justice League is a wash. Get it out of here. Batman vs. Superman was controversial. Man of Steel is quite a divisive film. Universally, people like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman in '84 was kind of on the fence. I mean, this cinematic universe is all over the place, you guys, and hopefully we can get something to solidify everything with Black Adam. But what are your thoughts? Are you excited to see Black Adam? Are you over it? Are you over the DCEU entirely? Let us know down in the comment section below. All right, guys, we've reached the portion of the show where it's time to take your live comments and questions. Some of you have been firing in live comments and questions all show long, so now let's go ahead and take some of your live comments and questions.
It's alive! It's alive!
All right, you guys, let's jump in. And our first comment comes from Matthew Wiles in the UK, and Matthew says, you won't be able to talk about Justice League on here until it's out in the UK. We'll see about that, Matthew. We'll see about that. No, but I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. Natalie, what's up?
There's like a spoiler, like
Yeah.
give some, especially with streaming services. How many days is it for the rest of the world to hear spoilers about
Well, yeah, I mean,
the Snyder
that's
Cut?
something that we do on the show about WandaVision, because the vast majority of the world has access to Disney Plus, and being that we're living in a COVID world and everyone's on lockdown, we're all watching everything in real time. So if you miss an episode of WandaVision, I mean, like. There's always excuses. There's always excuses. I'm full of them. I have a butt. It stinks. We all have excuses. But like, I don't know. It's kind of a different, like, WandaVision spoilers I feel are different than theatrical spoilers, you know? But yeah, I mean, there is a statute of limitations.
And I really, I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I would be very, we come back on the show, we're like, oh my God, I've got Snyder Cut.
Oh, we probably will. Oh, 100%. But yeah, when
life-changing.
Say what?
For it to be life-changing.
But, we are going to label it as a spoiler discussion. So, I mean, if for whatever reason the UK hasn't, or rather, like those subsidiaries or like whatever divisions there, if they haven't made those agreements, they aren't able to get it out on March 18th as promised, we will make that delineation and say, we have got to talk about this thing. But, yeah,
Spoilers.
Yeah, it'll happen. Matthew Wild sends in our last question of the day, and he says, the problem is if they wait, the people who want to watch it will VPN it or pirate it, so they will lose out, and it doesn't make sense. That has been a huge problem with The Mandalorian. That was a huge problem with Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. VPN changes or, pirating. I think The Mandalorian was, correct me if I'm wrong, Internet, but I believe The Mandalorian was the most pirated show, period, in history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was the case. And yeah, because Disney Plus just wasn't available in some countries. Now, I think that they've helped to mitigate and solve those problems, but you're right. That's money on the table that they're just walking away from.
I mean, Warner Brothers has to be anticipating this, right? They're the king of like, oh God, don't leak our stuff, don't record stuff at Comic-Con and leak it to the internet.
Disney too.
So
Disney's
I'm
big
sure.
On that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really certain that is why they're going to lean, especially in to get that problem solved really well, or really quickly. I think take a hit in Chinese down the Asian.
Yeah.
They might take a hit there. Really feel like solve this problem by March 18th.
Well, they are going to take a hit initially, but eventually they're going to get it solved and worked out with the Chinese market, because it is such a huge market. But also the advantage I don't know if it's an advantage. The reality of the situation is that the way the Chinese government is set up is that country is very insular. So whatever content the rest of the world produces, sometimes the Chinese market isn't aware of it, just because of the way the government has those sets of restrictions. Like social media doesn't work in China the same way that it does outside of China because of their restrictions and stuff. So in that way, they're not, like, when it does open up in China, it'll be huge. And the Chinese market will gobble it up the same way that we're going to gobble it up. But the time frame most likely will be a little different there.
I mean,
Snooper's going to snoop.
Fact of life.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain it to you, but Snooper's going to snoop. Yeah, so that ends our live discussion today. Natalie, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for being our regular guest from here on out on Wednesdays.
I'm super. I will see you then Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie, as always, where can people find you online, and what projects do you have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I always encourage people head over to my Instagram. It's Kamikani. And I've got the Video Fasties Instagram. We're working on short and original films that are, so follow that, and also we're always looking for content submissions. So hit me up at Video Fasties.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Natalie, I will see you on Wednesday. All right, guys, if you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share, because that is exactly what, let's go with Zack Snyder today. That's exactly what Zack Snyder would want you to do. All right, guys, this is Gotta Live Them Movies, a place to come and talk about the stuff that you love. We live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little kindness into the world or speak kind words to each other, please, I implore you, take those opportunities. And as always, in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. I'll see you guys tomorrow.